Hi everyone. In this session, we are going to talk about Pega GenAI Knowledge Buddy architecture. This is more like a whiteboarding, which is already done by me. However, I'm going to take you through some of the important details where I feel this architecture is quite powerful, and the reasons or justifications why I feel that way. I'm going to explain it in this session. Before I start with that, we'll try to explain the first few minutes on the basic of Knowledge Buddy, like what exactly is this Pega GenAI Knowledge Buddy. Okay, and while I have this whole whiteboarding handy with me, I'll be zooming in, zooming out to mostly explain some of the aspects. Okay, to start with, where exactly is Pega Knowledge Buddy helpful to the users? Let's look at it from this perspective. Okay, so some end users, as you see in this whiteboarding, they could be back office users, maybe most of the times. Whenever back office users, they try to use Pega applications. Imagine there are multiple Pega applications. One of the applications is a Pega CRM kind of application. So this is, imagine it's a customer service application. Okay, I'm treating this as a Pega customer service, where these agents or back office users, they're directly interacting with customers, and they need to answer some of the questions while they are present in an interaction. Okay, in a phone call, maybe customer has given a phone call to the customer service, and the agent has picked up a phone interaction, and while they're trying to answer some of the questions, they have lots of data. A system has access to lots of data, and if agent has to go through the information and answer the questions of customers, obviously the turnaround time will be very high, right? What if there is a knowledge buddy, like just how you might have seen already the prompts, like something like chat gpt, like you ask a question and it goes and it tries to find an answer and then generates the answer for you, right? In the same way, Pega has thought through about this prompt, which is more like a buddy, which is more helpful to these kind of back office users who operate typically on humongous amounts of data. Imagine if they have to read through mountains of data to understand how they need to help the customer with the question, right? Then that is exactly where this Pega Knowledge Buddy becomes very handy for such back office users. Okay, now how Pega Knowledge Buddy has all those information or access to that data, how it generates the answers based on the questions or prompts, right? All of that we will see. I'm sure some of you will understand it, and you might also appreciate some of the facts just like the way I do now. Okay, but even if you are new to Pega GenAI Knowledge Buddy, then the basic understanding which I want you to take at this moment is, yeah, so Pega GenAI Knowledge Buddy is more like a prompt given to some back office users who are accessing the Pega applications. If they're dealing with Pega customer service or any kind of CRM, right? If someone is dealing with a customer and they have to go through lots of information to answer or to help customer on a specific interaction. Imagine if customer is on a phone call, instead of taking 1 hour, if customer service agent is able to tackle that call and answer the questions of customer to the point in few seconds or in few minutes, yeah, that means a lot of value add to any businesses, right? Think of any insurance domain where some customer is calling up a customer service agent who picks up the phone call and they're trying to help the customer with the information they need, right? Such cases, yeah, this Pega Knowledge Buddy will be very helpful. I just gave one easy to remember kind of use case, but this can be applied to variety of use cases wherever you're dealing with, like I said, a humongous amounts of data. Instead of some person going through it manually, finding the hyperlink and giving it to customers, right? So in such cases, this knowledge buddy, which is more like a prompt, which is highlighted here in this yellow color, it comes handy to such users. Okay, now we have seen the context, like where exactly this knowledge buddy is useful and what exactly is knowledge buddy. You might have got a basic view even if you haven't heard about it earlier. Now the question comes, right? Okay, Pega knowledge buddy is great, it is helping the back office users, but how is this working? I mean, how does this Pega knowledge buddy know so much about the data? How does it have access to the information that system has to operate with, right? And how this is exactly set up? For that thing, what we'll do is think of it this way. And this architecture is like, it's not like Pega has developed a knowledge buddy and it is directly sitting in your Pega application. The architecture is something like they're very loosely coupled. It's more like a plugin. Pega knowledge buddy is built somewhere, but it can be plugged in easily into any of your applications. And the design wise, you will understand it in some time. But for that, what I'll do is, now let me take you through the architecture. For that, I'll just give you a bit more context on the right hand side. So for on this diagram, what you have seen is on the left hand side, that is how back office users are accessing a particular Pega application, and then they also see Pega knowledge buddy on the screen as a prompt like thing, which is also helping them in giving some quick answers or some information back to customer in a way that the turnaround time is reducing for every call for a particular business, right? But how that is exactly happening, you see that from architecture there are multiple calls involved. But before directly going to the calls, who created this Pega knowledge buddy, right? That's a part. For that one, we'll see here the right hand side of it, which is the Pega GenAI Knowledge Buddy instance. What you see here on the right hand side, this is a Pega Knowledge Buddy instance. And what exactly happens here, just for that, let me take this into the context. Okay, so Pega Knowledge Buddy, in this case, this is more like one GenAI Pega instance. Imagine this is completely detached from your actual Pega server. Of course, it can be deployed onto the same server also, because it's again one another Pega instance. But think of it for your understanding that this is a separate Pega GenAI instance where Pega systems will set up this installation where we can have this knowledge buddy setup. When I say that, it's more like a Pega application which will be deployed onto one of the instance. And once that Pega application is there, when I say Pega application, I'm referring to this in this example. So this is another Pega application. In this case, that Pega application is already created by Pega systems, right? And that is the knowledge buddy application. Okay. You will see this when you log into this one. You will see it. I'll see if I can make a demo session also for this later. But for the architecture, remember that this is a Pega instance where Pega has already developed an application for you. And once you have this instance, then obviously you have the credentials to log in. Then who can log in into the system? Think of it this way. Either the persona knowledge buddy manager or buddy administrator or data source managers, any of them. Yeah, these people can log into this system, and whenever they log into this instance, they get to see the knowledge buddy portal. Okay, and when they see Pega knowledge buddy portal, within that what they can do is, they can go and create their own knowledge buddy. Okay, let me try to do that. So once here I'm trying to talk about this one within the Pega knowledge buddy portal. If a buddy administrator has logged in, from the name you know that okay, it's a buddy administrator. What they can do, they can create buddies. They can create one buddy or two or three or four, for that matter, any number of Pega knowledge buddies they can create. Let's start with one of them, right? Whenever they're creating one knowledge buddy, it's just like any other case type. Like they create a case which is actually a knowledge buddy. You'll understand once you see the demo. So knowledge buddy case will be created where we'll be associating that with a data source. And and it's easy, simple to use. Even if you go through the course, you'll understand how easy it is, which is fine. So basically we are setting up a knowledge buddy, and we are also saying it is associated to so and so data sources. And also we can provide some personas, like who can operate on it, or who has permissions to add or ingest the data, something like that. Now the question comes, okay, Pega Knowledge Buddy is so easy to create. Is just another simple Pega application we spoke about, and then Pega Knowledge Buddy is more set up in the form of case type, which is the knowledge buddy. Okay, fine. We have the buddy, which is something similar to the case type, and it's easy to create. Once we create, we have to input some details and associated with a data source. Perfect. You followed till there, I believe. But the main question comes, okay, the data source is set up, but how can I ingest the data into the data source? That is the important aspect, right? For that one, this is a beauty where I see. Now I'll just take you slightly into the a bit more context. Okay, now we're talking about ingestion of the data, and how that happens is you will see the APIs, this instance, whatever you will see within that, you will find Pega Knowledge Buddy V1 APIs. When I was researching, it's V1. Let's see, maybe in future it will be different versions. The concept of architecture is whenever they Pega, anyways, it has a service. Whenever they give it, the beauty is for that already the APIs are released. Whatever you see here in this block, these are all V1 APIs. Okay, when I was researching, I saw 5 of them. Like I said, in future they might grow. That's all okay. It's not about the number of APIs. It's about the service is exposed to the outside world, and with that we'll gain a lot of benefit. Now you see, okay, services are exposed. Now I have to hit the service to ingest the data. Yes, that makes sense. But for consuming the service for other Pega application, they have to write connectors again to connect to a particular API. Right? Suppose if you have a Pega application which is sitting on the left hand side here, and as you see, from a Pega application to consume the V1 APIs, if you ask again someone else to connect to those APIs, they have to write connectors, right? So here what Pega has done is they have also released a connector which comes handy with a gadget. So all you have to do is you have to install a gadget. It's like a component kind of thing. Pega Knowledge Buddy gadget. So once you install that, that means you're also getting all the connectors which can connect to those APIs. So that's the beauty. So on the right hand side, yes, Pega Knowledge Buddy needs they have services. Someone has to invoke the services, but to invoke the services, Pega has already given the connectors, so you don't have to develop any connectors, and someone has to invoke these connectors, right? And for that also, Pega made it very easy. You don't have to invoke it in a way that you have to develop something new. But what we have done here is it's a simple mashup, like a web embed. So here, if you see, like Pega Knowledge Buddy is embedded as a it's a web embed into a Pega application, and that is having everything inbuilt to connect to the connectors. Again, connectors are given by Pega systems already, and connectors obviously will reach to the V1 APIs. So think of a scenario. Anyways, now we're talking about connectors. Obviously, if you have to do that, you have to go via some authentication, right? So some basic configuration setup is needed. End user OAuth 2.0, and about the data we'll talk in a minute. But before that, yeah, whenever back office user or anyone who is trying to access this knowledge buddy, right? So they are basically coming via this web embed gadget, and from here the web embed gadget via OAuth 2.0. I hope you're following me. This authentication, they're going via the connector, and from that connector, what's happening is they're reaching to V1 API in this case. And obviously then if API is there, then that takes care of ingesting the data into respective data sources, right? That is one thing. So the thing is, yeah, the first point here is maybe the ingesting data is not the right thing. Let me just take one step back. Whenever the end user or back office user is invoking something, it's more like we're asking for a question. So the connector actually in this case is it's going and posting a question, and then it goes and get the answers from the data sources, right? Knowledge Buddy already will have the answer for it. So from the data source, answer is fetched and it is shown back to onto the back office user portal. So fine. So how this is working? So you understood this architecture, but this knowledge buddy, before even embedding here, if you want to try this out, test this out, you don't have to embed in your application already. First, you can, on the right hand side, you can already create a knowledge buddy here, right? So you're actually creating it, and you can also test it end to end. Once it is tested and you are happy, from there you are bringing it back and you are embedding that into your application. And then how it connects to the respective API to get the answers, all of that you understood already, right? Okay, that's a very simple thing. I don't want to drag about it, but the point which I want to appreciate here throughout the whiteboarding, what we have done is, let me clear out some of the stuff while I'm talking. So all of this I was just only trying to explain, but overall what I'm saying is knowledge buddy portal or the knowledge buddy instance, that is a separate Pega instance. That's the first part. Very good. And within that Pega instance, Pega Systems has developed one Pega application, which is Pega Knowledge Buddy. Within that Pega Knowledge Buddy application, there is a Pega Knowledge Buddy portal, and only few personas can access it. Like example, Buddy Administrator. If Buddy Administrator is accessing Pega Knowledge Buddy portal, they can create Knowledge Buddy. If they're creating a Knowledge Buddy, that is something similar to a case type. I'm just creating a case, and within that case, you are capturing all the information and also specifying all the data sources, right? Once entire setup is done, you're also testing everything end to end. Okay, and the knowledge buddy is working fine, and then the knowledge buddy is embedded into your Pega application where it is going to help the back office users. Perfect. So we spoke about most of the things, but I didn't speak about ingesting the data. Okay, knowledge buddy is created, it is associated with the data source, and we ask a question, it is actually answering the question, and it is helping back office users. Okay, all of this is fine. But who exactly is ingesting the data into this, and how exactly can we ingest, right? There, I'm sure some of you would have already noticed, but I'm trying to say it. For question and answer, it's this API which is trying to help. For ingesting the data into it, there is an API here. If you see the put indexes, so that is where we call this API and we provide the data in a format. There is also format how it has to be, like I said, I'll have one more session, part 2 to this, to make a session on how that data would look like, how the demo will happen. If you see the demo on how we are changing the content and we're hitting these APIs and how it is ingesting the data and how it is gracefully answering the questions based on the data, generating the answers based on that, then you'll also like that part, I'm sure, if you have not seen that already. But overall, what I'm trying to say is all the ingestion is happening through this one. Okay, the API. Of course, there are also other APIs which are given, but you can explore them as well. But in particular, I have seen this, and I have also made a hit to the API to ingest some of my content to the data sources. Okay, and that's another thing. Now, okay, this is like more, I explained a manual way, like, okay, I make the API hit and then I ingest the data in the Postman, then it inserts or ingests the data into data source. That is fine, but is there any other way to ingest the knowledge, ingest the information, right, the data? For that one, I just want to give you some more context on here. Within the Pega setup, imagine some clients, I don't know if many of you know this or not, but 4-5 years back when I was exploring on some POCs or from pre-sales work, I've seen some customers using Pega Knowledge Management. It used to be known as Pega Knowledge Management or Pega KM framework. Some of you, I'm sure, would have heard about it. If you are somebody new to this, you don't have to know anything about it. Think of it this way: even in the past, Pega has a framework called Pega Knowledge Management. It's some people call it as Pega Knowledge Management, and now Pega is calling it as Pega Knowledge. If you go to any Pega instance which has this framework, you will find them. Okay, like how Pega has Pega CS, Pega Customer Service, Pega Knowledge is also a framework. And there you will see KM authors, knowledge management authors are the people who can create some kind of cases within Pega, right? Like they'll be able to create some articles, and there will be a hierarchy. Based on that hierarchy, they create a lot of content, and that content will be stored in this Pega knowledge framework in an organized manner. Okay, so that's a very high level summary of it. Now the point is, imagine there is a client, some ABC, or maybe other client XYZ. These are all the customers who is already leveraging this Pega knowledge. Do they have to ingest the data separately, or they should be having a way that they can ingest the data in a way that it can be ingested, and Pega Knowledge Buddy also should be knowing about that knowledge and respond back or generate answers based on that. Very valid, right? So since Pega already has a framework, it makes a real sense to make sure this Pega knowledge framework is also attached or somehow linked to this architecture. This is also one of my favorite point about this architecture. So there also, anyways, it's the same APIs. If you see, it's like I said, the same API indexes here. Who is calling that? So you'll see a connectors, and how we are connecting the people, KM authors who logged into this Pega knowledge portal via OAuth 2.0 authentication. They're accessing the connectors to reach to the APIs, right? Which ingests the data into the respective data sources. Awesome, isn't it? So in this case, did I develop any API? No, Pega has developed because it's their service. Did I develop any connectors? No, Pega has, because they know the services and they know what the connector has to be. So they made it things very simple. And who invoked that connector? Again, Pega knowledge portal is given by Pega. So even there, the connection is actually happening whenever someone is ingesting the content, and that content is directly getting pushed via connector, and it is ultimately reaching to the data source. Awesome, isn't it? Overall, this is where I was telling, these are the few places where I got convinced, or there are good number of justifications where I felt this is quite a powerful architecture. That's why I just want to give a context to many others. I'm just reverting back all the rough work we have done on this session. But overall, just to summarize, yeah, we are back at this. Hopefully, you got a context on what I was trying to explain. So, Pega GenAI Knowledge Buddy architecture in the detailed view. You have seen the use cases, how this Pega Knowledge Buddy is helpful to the business back office users in a particular business domain, and how they ask the questions, or how the Pega Knowledge Buddy gives the answers to them. And the next part is how the Pega Knowledge Buddy instance is set up. Okay, so this was the first part. And second is the Pega Knowledge Buddy instance, which is set up in a way that Buddy administrators or people like them can access to an application which is Pega Knowledge Buddy, and within that a portal called Knowledge Buddy portal. And from there they create the Knowledge Buddy and associate them with multiple data sources if needed. And anyways, the APIs are exposed for that particular application, and the connectors are also made available. And all the consuming application, what they have to do is they just have to, once the Knowledge Buddy is tested, they just have to bring and embed that into their own application. And that's it. That can connect to the APIs, and it gets a response back to them. And the last part, what we have seen is how the data is ingested. We spoke about the standalone approach here. using the direct API, and we make a head, we can ingest loads of data. For the other approaches, we have seen how KM authors are in a typical way on the Pega knowledge framework, how they ingest data when they're creating lots of articles into this space. Whenever they do, and that goes via this different user OAuth 2.0, a different connector, and that hits the same API. So overall, this is a sequence how we have discussed. I'm not saying it works it's not like some sequence diagram. For you to easily conceptualize and to understand how things are working, this is how I see it. Hopefully, the simplistic view would have helped at least some of you. Hope you have enjoyed this learning session. Thank you.